So I have pushed the stream live. Now I'm gonna make you host, and then you have to make me co-host again.
Okay. Are you co-host?
Yes, I am.
Hey. Righty. We'll just wait for people to join us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome. iPad, are you Joanne? Not Joanne. That's not right.
Nope, Phyllis.
Phyllis, that's it. Darn it.
That's okay.
Hi, Phyllis. How are you?
I am tired.
Oh, how come?
I went grocery shopping and I went and mowed lawn for about 20 minutes. Now I'm getting ready to go to work.
Very good.
So my day's been pretty busy already.
Yes. Just making sure I've got everybody in my screen. How is everybody this morning?
Good.
Good. Hi, Carol. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Carol, have you been in my crocheting class before?
First time.
And do you know how to crochet at all?
Not one little bit.
Okay, you're in the right place. Welcome. Glad to have you on board. Brenda
Thank
or
you.
Dania, you're welcome. Do you want to chime in on where you are with your crocheting journey? A brand new beginner, a little bit of experience? You could teach the class. I always like to know what my participants are able to do.
I am brand new, and I actually started an in-person class last week and was really unbelievably awful. But I guess that's with every new thing you try, you have to fail quite a bit. So I'm hoping this will help me a little more.
Okay, I think you're right, though, Dania. I think you're on the right track. Every little bit you try, get you one step farther along the road, and sometimes you'll pick up something from a different instructor, than you might from another, just because it's presented a little bit differently. And also, I'd recommend, looking at some YouTube videos. Just look up beginning crochet, because sometimes you can get some tips that way too. But I'd be happy to have your feedback when we're done. Let me know how it feels for you.
I think that one of the things I was having a problem, maybe I feel like my hands are small, and it was hard for me to get everything angled in a way to get it to happen as it was supposed to.
I think honestly, that is the challenge to learn both knitting and crocheting is the coordination of your hands. And it takes some practice to start getting that muscle memory. So don't let that beginning awkwardness stop you, because I really think that if you practice, you'll be able to pick it up. So yeah, so Dania or I see Brenda, I see Dania, I'm not sure, Delvalid, am I saying that correctly? Anybody want to tell me where they are on their crocheting journey?
Say hi.
Or say hi. Oh, look at that beautiful cat.
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, I see we've got still a couple of people joining, but I'm going to go ahead and get going. And I would like to welcome you to Get Set Up's Learn to Crochet class. It is truly a basics, very beginner level class. If you know a little bit, you may pick up some pointers. If you know a lot, maybe you're going to add some tips to the class, but this really is a beginner class all the way from choosing your yarn to getting the right hook in your hand, how to hold it, and how we're going to go through the slip stitch. Today's the slip knot. We're going to go through the chain, which is the foundation to many crochet projects. And then we're also going to do the single crochet stitch. I'm going to save double crochet, half double crochet, treble crochet for my intermediate class, which is currently being developed. So I just want to make sure that that you know where you are in this class, so that you are not bored, but you are challenged. So hopefully you feel like you're in the right spot. I'm Sarah. I live in Everett, Michigan, which is right in the middle of the Lower Peninsula. I spent 22 years in K-12 education, and I retired last summer from my position as an elementary principal, which I absolutely loved. I also spent 2 years as a specialist with MSU, helping schools in Northern Michigan who were behind academically, and that was certainly a highlight of my career. I live by quotes, and I love this one. People do the best they can with what they know, and when they know better, they do better. I like that because what it says to me is, as long as I'm here on this earth, I can learn new things, and I do. I try to learn new things all the time and stretch myself in that area. In January, I was in Facebook. Hi, Carol. Thanks for turning your video on. That's great. I love that. I love all the videos that are on today. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. I was scrolling through my Facebook feed in January, and I saw Get Set Up class. Hi, Marlene. And was so thankful to find an online venue that was related to older learners. And so I took a great number of classes, and then I saw that they were looking for some more guides, and I have a passion for all things craft. And so I began my journey as a guide with Get Set Up, and I am truly, truly loving it. We learn from each other. I'll learn from you. You'll learn from me. We can do wonderful things together. Ideally, I can see you and your cameras are on. I'm finding that especially helpful in the crafting world because I can see when you're making a frowny face, which means you're not getting what I'm trying to explain, or I can see when you're catching it. So it's very helpful to me to see your beautiful faces. If you're joining by live stream, I'd like to welcome you. And I'm glad you're here with us, but know that if you would like to be interactive, we'd love to have you hop on over on the getsetup.io website and join us directly. That way I can answer your questions in real time and help you understand better when we can communicate with one another. We're not paid, neither Get Set Up nor I am paid to promote specific products, but as a crafter, I'm going to mention those that I love. So just know I'm not endorsed to do that. I'm just sharing products that I found have worked for me, and you may have products that work specifically for you as well. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can type it in the chat box and I'll try to follow that. We've got Michael on today. I'm not sure if Michael's staying on with us or if he's just helping us get started, but he can provide any technical assistance we might need. Michael, would you like to say hello? And Michael may not have heard me say that. So, but he's here. If you chat with him in the chat box, if you're having trouble hearing me, for example, that's something that he can generally help you with. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover
What seems to be the problem, sir? Is there a problem?
I was just asking if you wanted to say hi to everyone, Michael. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if you're staying on today or if you're just checking in.
No, it is a TA, so I'll be hanging on for the whole class.
Okay. All right. So glad to have you with us, Michael.
Awesome.
All right. So you're going to, this is what we're going to cover. Choosing the right supplies, how to do a slip knot and the chain stitch, the single crochet stitch, and then some tips and tricks. Does anyone have anything specific they were hoping to learn about crocheting today other than what I've already mentioned? Anything specific?
Just the basic stitches in crocheting.
Good.
That's
Glad
the
to hear
problem
it.
that I'm having with.
Okay, great.
Yes.
All right. I've already heard from most of you, but if you want to respond in the chat box with one of these numbers or show me with your hands, whether you're a 1, a 3, or a 5. You're an expert, you have some knowledge, or you have none and you're ready to learn. Oh, I see it too. You've invented your own number there, Carol. That's great. We have 3 Carols on here today. That's quite a, so when I say Carol, you're all gonna say, huh? Sorry about that. Okay. These are the basic supplies that you need to get started with crocheting. You'll want to have a pattern. Most people use a pattern. I do have a friend who can knit and crochet by eye. She can literally make a top for herself without ever looking at a pattern. That's outside of my skill set. I work by pattern. If you have a little bit of crochet knowledge and you say, but I can't read a pattern, that class, I'm actually creating that class right now along with the intermediate crochet class, and I think it's going to be launched week after next. So watch for a crochet pattern reading class and an intermediate class if you're looking for some next steps. We'll talk about the yarn you need, and we'll talk about the hook. You're going to need a pair of scissors to cut your yarn. And then optionally, you may want a yarn or a darning needle to weave in your ends, and you may or may not want stitch markers. Now, just know we won't be using stitch markers today in what we're doing because it's a very simple and straightforward dishcloth that I'm going to be teaching you to do today. So let's start out with reading the yarn label, and I'm going to go through this relatively quickly so we get so many brand new learners. I want to give our learners time to pick up the actual stitches. But you can see that all these things are told to you on a yarn label. So it tells you the weight of the yarn. And this is kind of the first thing that I look at when I look at a label is what size yarn is it? And what that's telling you basically is how big around this is right here, how big around the strand is. And that varies from, I think, 1 all the way up to 9. So you've seen those super bulky blankets that are made out of the great big yarns. That would be a 9. And a 1 would be all the way down almost to a thread. So the average size, though, that most people use for the majority of the projects that are made are 4s. So if you walked into a Walmart in the yarn section and you saw the acrylic yarn, saw the skeins of cotton balls like we're going to use today, those are all 4s. And so that's a great beginner size to use. If you don't know what to pick out, you're going to pick up the label and you're going to look. And if it's a 4, I say that's a good choice for a beginner. It's also going to tell you how many ounces are on the skein. It's going to tell you how many yards, or if you like it in grams and meters, it'll tell you that too. I share that because you want to buy enough to make sure you complete a project. So if something says 9 ounces, you're going to pick up 2 of these skeins if a pattern says 9 ounces, because you're going to want enough to complete your whole project. So that's why they tell you the ounces and the yardage. Also, I always make sure I have enough because, and it doesn't show it on this label, but yarn oftentimes comes in what they call die lots. And so if I went into a store today and I bought, let's say I bought 4 skeins for an Afghan and I ran out and I need a 5th skein and now it's the middle of the summer and I go back, if it comes out of a different dye lot, in other words, a different vat of dye, Phyllis, does yours say dye lot or no dye lot on it? I see you holding up a skein. Do you see that on there at all? If it said, if I could actually have a slight shade difference and it's going to show up in my Afghan, and that's actually happened to me a couple of times, and it's very disappointing to have that change. So always make sure you buy enough. If you keep your yarn in good condition, like in a bag, and you don't rattle it around a lot, if you have extra, a lot of times the store will take it back if you return it in a timely fashion. Keep your receipt. It's also going to tell you the fiber content. This one happens to be acrylic, 90% acrylic and 10% alpaca. You want to know what the content is so that you avoid shrinkage. So for example, if I bought 100% untreated wool and made myself a sweater and then I washed it, it would shrink and maybe fit my grandchild. So you want to make sure that you understand what the fiber content is and what the laundering instructions are. And it tells you the laundering instructions in both icons and in words. So if you know what the icons are, and this is the key over here, if you know what the icons are, you can spot it in an instant. But if you don't, it always does say it in words underneath. So know what your laundering instructions are. And then the gauge is on here. And that's what this is. It's telling you how big is it going to be when I crochet it or knit it. And I'm going to go to the next shot, which is a different skein of yarn, but it shows a close-up and you can see what I'm talking about. So this is Intro to Crochet. I'm going to explain the crochet part of it today. What this is telling you is that if you picked up a size J hook, which is also sometimes called a 10, and or is also sometimes called a 6 millimeter, and you single crocheted 12 stitches across, and you went for 15 rows of single crochet, it should end up 4 by 4 inches square. So in a dishcloth, like the one that I'm gonna unshare for just a second so I can show you this a little bit up close. And I think I can even do this. So can you see me when I do this? Can you see me well? So this is my finished dishcloth. It's about, I'd say it's about 11 inches square. Okay. This was when I was practicing my swatching. And this is showing you, this is where I was practicing to see if I was going to end up with that 4 by 4 using a J hook. And the reason you do this ahead of time is if this finished product needs to be a specific size, you want to make sure that your crocheting matches what they're saying on the label. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to share it again. And I'm going to talk for a minute about if I was making a top for myself or if I was making an outfit for an American Girl doll, for example. And let's say that I did exactly what it says here. I used my J hook. I did 12 single crochet stitches and I went for 15 rows and it ended up being 5.5 inches square. That would tell me I'm a very loose crocheter and I need to go down a hook size or two. And the opposite is true. So let's say that I get all done and instead of it being 4 by 4, now it's 3 by 3. That means I'm a really tight crocheter and I need to go up a hook size or two. So if it's very important that it fits when you're done, you want to make sure that you're using that. Now, I know that I am a loose crocheter. I always go down a minimum of 1 crochet hook, always. I'm never going to be exactly what they say, but I crocheted enough that I know that. There are a few things that I've gone down 2 sizes. I'm actually crocheting a doily right now with thread, and I went down 2 sizes in hooks to get a doily that's going to turn out the right size. So this is an important, this is important to know. Any questions on this gauging piece? Okay, next is the hook, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the parts of the hook, and I'm going to tell you about 2 types of hooks. So the parts of the hook are the point, and that's the part that inserts into the stitches, and that's what works your way through. Then you've got your throat, or the actual hook part. That's what you grab your yarn with. The shaft is the part that goes from the hook down to the grip. And that is when it says 6 millimeters, when it said the J was a 6 millimeter hook, that's where that 6 millimeters comes from, is right there. There's a grip on the hook, on most hooks, which is where your index finger and thumb hold on to the crochet hook. And then the handle is the part that rests in your hand. Now, I'll show you. What did I do with my, whoops, lost my J. I'm gonna unshare for just 1 second again and show you a close up. This is a very large crochet hook. This is like a Q or something. And I made a rug that I'll show you at the end. I made a rug for the floor using this crochet hook. What I don't like about this crochet hook is there's no grip in it. So that's kind of a look for that when you buy it. If it doesn't have a grip, it's not a good hook. The other thing is, and I think you can see it in this hook, there's the grip right here. Can you see that? And it has the size on it. And it tells me right there on this one that this is an F hook, which is also known as a 5, and which is 3.75 millimeters. That's this spot right here on it. Any questions about the parts of the hook? All right, the other thing that I like people to understand is there's an inline hook and there's a tapered hook. And you'll find two camps on this. Some people like, oh, Carol Combs, yours is the kind I like. Yours is the tapered, and the inline looks like this, and the slant of it, for me, the reason I don't care for it is when I hook, a lot of times my thread will slip out of it. I like this deeper hook. And the one that I just had, the one that I just had that has the right taper on it is made by Boy, B-O-Y-E, Boy. The Boy hooks are the tapered hooks. I'm not sure what the inline is, but I just think when you're starting, the ability to grab and hold the yarn is important. So if you're just starting, look for that tapered hook. Okay, so what we're going to use today is we're going to use cotton crochet yarn in the size 4. It's 100% cotton. I like the cotton for the dishcloths. Now, if you don't have it and you want to follow along and all you've got is acrylic, it's okay. I just don't like the acrylic when I'm washing the dishes, but a 4 in acrylic will work just the same as a 4 in the cotton as far as learning. So whatever you have is fine. For this demonstration today, I used the I hook, which is also a 9. And I had scissors. You can follow along as we go through this together, or you can order, remember, a copy. If you're here with me, if you're present in this class, you can order a copy of the class at help@getsetup.io. And you just email that and you say, I'd like a copy of Sarah's Learn to Crochet class from today, and they'll send you a recording right away. And then you can watch it and rewatch it. You can cue it up to a specific spot. So know that that's certainly a possibility. Okay, so this is the pattern. If you want to write it down, you can. You don't have to. I'm going to tell you this again, but we're going to chain 35. We're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. I'm going to send you this in your email afterwards too, so you don't have to remember this. You're going to chain 1 and turn, and then you're going to single crochet in every stitch for every row until it's square. And I decided this was square just by folding it corner to corner. That was how I decided when to stop with my rows. And because your crocheting is probably going to be looser or tighter than mine, you may want to do the same thing. So you're in chain 35, single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and in each chain across, giving you 34 total stitches. You'll always chain 1 and turn. You're going to always single crochet in this example, and you're going to do that until it's square. All right, so I want to show you how to start the yarn out of the yarn ball. How we find the center of our skein. So this is a skein of cotton crochet yarn or knitting yarn, different than an elongated skein. This one's more elongated, this one's a little more squat, but they work pretty much the same way. Think of this as one really long piece of thread that's wound around. So there's the outside end and there's the inside end. The outside end is not a good one to pull from because there's no smooth way to unravel it without rolling the skein all around. So my favorite way is what I'm going to show you right here, and that's that you kind of poke into the center. You keep poking, poking, poking until you get as close to the center of the skein as you possibly can. And then I take my finger and my thumb and I reach inside there and I pull out with my finger thumb a piece of yarn, and I can see now that I've gotten down to the single pull. And so I look, and lo and behold, there's my thread end. And so this is where I want to pull from. Once I use up this little extra that I pulled out, it will pull freely from the skein without the skein ever moving. And you can use almost your entire skein without ever getting a knot and without the skein ever rolling. So that's the beauty of pulling from the center. Any questions on that, on pulling from the center? One of the things that it keeps you from having to do is ball your yarn. A lot of people ask, do I still have to ball my yarn? If you pull from the center, the other advantage that it gives you is when you're pulling from the center, because it's not rolling around, it's not getting dirty. You don't have to pick it up all the time. So it's a pretty good skill to know. The exception to whether you need to ball it or not would be if you go into a knitting store where they sell, with their primary thing that they sell is yarn, they'll sometimes, especially the hand dyed yarns, are still sold in what they call a hank. And a hank, I was saying shank a couple weeks ago, Phyllis, it was the wrong word, it's a hank. So a hank, it looks like they've wound it around and around and around and around my hands, and then I would take it off and twist it. That's a hank of yarn, and that has to be balled before you can use it. Most yarn stores, if you buy a hank of yarn in the store, they'll ball it for you if you ask them, and they put it on this little machine and it just balls it right up. That's really, but any like big box like a Joann's or a Michael's, they're going to sell it in the skeins like I'm showing you, where you can pull it from the middle. Okay, so let's make the slip knot. So this is going to demonstrate making a slip knot. Here's the end of your yarn right here, and at the tail, wherever your tail is. And I go, I don't know, three inches up or so, pick it up and just curl it around so that it makes a loop. So that this tail is crossing the part that's coming out of the skein itself. And then you just take this tail, poke it up underneath, and grab it. And then holding on to both the tail and the part coming out of the skein with your right hand, and the loop with your left, you're gonna tighten that down to make your slip knot. And then you can adjust it by pulling on the thread, or yarn. And when you do that, then that makes your beginning stitch so that you can begin your first, for example, your first crochet stitch or your first knitting stitch. But the slip knot is important because it's exactly the right size because of the way you can tighten it, and it also can be pulled right out like magic. Thanks. Any questions on the slip knot? Questions on the slip knot?
That's where I'm still getting stuck. I just can't get it to knot.
So if I want to just see something. If I go like this, can you see my hands well enough? I always do it on my hands. So in the video, I did it on a towel because I thought it might be easier for people to see. But this is what I do. I bring it across my fingers like this, and I make a loop. And can you see my X right now? Can you see that? And then all I do is go in here and grab from behind and do that. And then I can just pull it right out. So let me show you one more time, because this might be easier So I go around my two fingers and make an X, which really is just a loop, see? And then I go through the middle of that between my two fingers and grab that yarn and just pull it through. And as I pull it through, I pull it off my fingers and tighten it down. And then I've got that slip knot. So try that and see. Now it's not a deal breaker if you can't pick it up, if you can't figure that out. Like, don't let that stop you while we're trying to learn this together, because you can do the same thing by making a simple knot. Like, you just make make a knot around your finger and just start with a little loop. Just get yourself started, even if you can't figure out that slip knot. That shouldn't be a deal breaker for people. It makes me sad when people get held up at that spot. Just make yourself a little loop to get started. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to hold a hook in one video, and then I'm going to show you how to hold the yarn in the next. So let's just talk about the crochet hook itself for just 1 minute. Let's identify the parts first. You've got your tip, which is right here. You've got your throat, or this inside part of the hook called the throat, right there. This is your working area. This is the part that goes in and out of your stitches. And then there's always this grip area right here where you hold it. And then there's the handle of the hook. So those are the parts of the hook. There's two kinds of common holds for a crochet hook. One, which is my favorite, is what they call the pencil grip. And basically I'm holding this crochet hook in my hand like a pencil, with my thumb and my pointer finger on the grip. So I'm holding it like this. The second way to hold it is what they call the knife hold. Not my favorite, but Vanna White loves it. And it looks like this, where you're holding it. It's still between your thumb and your pointer finger, but you're holding it in this position. Let me show you it from this angle. And those are the two most popular holds. Any questions on holding it? So the one was called the knife hold and the other's called the pencil hold. So if you're holding it and you could write with it, you know you've got the pencil hold. If you're holding it and you could cut your steak with it, you know you've got the knife hold. And it's just really, truly a matter of preference. I feel like I have more control with the pointer hold, but there are things that I've crocheted with the knife hold. With the pencil hold, and there are things that I've crocheted with the knife hold, even though that's not my preference. So just do what feels comfortable. One of those two holds should work for you. Okay, now I'm gonna show you how to put the yarn and the hook together. So to hold the yarn and the hook together, you have your slip knot already made, and then you've got your hook. Pick up your hook and put it through your slip knot. Tighten your slip knot down, but not too tight. You want to be able to make sure your hook can come through it. So you want it tight, but not too tight. Then you wrap your yarn around your first finger. This is the way I hold it. There's lots of ways to hold your yarn. This is my preferred way. And then you grab a hold of the knot with your middle finger and your thumb. So right there. And then I like to use that pencil grip. And so I have wrapped my bottom two fingers around the working yarn that leads to the skein. So the total hold is wrap around your finger, first finger, hold the knot with your middle finger and your thumb, and you hold your working yarn with your ring finger and your little finger. I'm going to pause it right there so you can look at it and make sure you got that hold. Any questions on the hold? Now, some people will wind it through multiple fingers. That tends to give you a little tighter, crochet outcome, which is fine if that's what you like. I like the feeling of it being a little bit loose. And so that's how I hold it, but you'll see lots of different ways that people will hold the yarn with their left hand. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. So this is the position for holding the yarn And to make the first chain, we're going to have the throat of the hook right here facing us. And we're going to go from the front to the back and from underneath to up above and turn the hook right here using the grip as a guide so that the throat is now facing down. We grab the yarn and bring it through the loop on the hook, and that is our first chain. Okay, we're going to do a lot more of those. So that was just to get you going on the hold. Any questions before I keep going? Good job, Carol Combs. I can see you working on it. Okay, ready? Here's the chain stitch. So the chain stitch is the basic foundation for most crochet projects. It's your base row beginning mechanism. So in this, starting right here, I've already done my slip knot. I put my crochet hook through it. I've got my yarn held in its proper manner. And to make that first chain with the throat of the hook facing me, I go in front of the yarn, under it, go up on top of it, and then turn my throat so that it's pointed down toward the ground, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through. Now you can see as I pull it through that I'm also tugging slightly down to make room for the point of the throat to go through that stitch. And that is what that first stitch looks like. Now, if in today's lesson, we're going to be making a washcloth, and so we're going to do 33 or so of these. I'll double check that 35 in a minute, but 33. So it would look like this. I have one, now there's two, there's three, and then it starts to feel kind of awkward or loosey-goosey. And so I just simply move my thumb and my middle finger up, back, right under the needle. And I usually do 2 to 3 chains before I adjust my fingers again and move up. There's 3 more. There's 3 more. And that's how you make the chain. Okay, Brenda, I see your question. So on the second row, you don't, when you're single crocheting in the second row, you don't skip the first chain because there's no chain left. You're going to single crochet in every stitch. So that is only the case though when you're doing single crochet. It's a different strategy when you've got a double crochet because that starts the chain 3. But in single crochet, you're going to go in every stitch across. So, and I'm going to explain that here in a minute. So we're going to count the chain stitches next. Are there any other questions before I keep going? Is it making sense? Carol Williams, are you doing all right?
Yes, I am. I'm just waiting for her to turn and start the second row.
Okay, all right, so this is a little bit more on the chain. We're going to count the chain real quick. Now we want to see how many chains we've actually made, and so we want to know how to identify the individual chains. I like to think of it when I look at it this way, kind of in a vertical way. I like to think of these as V's. V's like the letter V. The left part of the V and the right part of the V, that's one chain stitch. So this is the initial chain that was on the hook when I started. That was the slip knot. That's the first chain. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me tug this up straight a little bit. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now what we don't count is the loop that's on its hook. So then we have to remember that we're counting the ones that are completed, not the ones that are on the hook. So there's. Okay, so now it's where we are doing, we're gonna start our single crochet stitches into that foundation of chain stitches. And this is where we're gonna skip the first chain.
We're gonna begin our single crochet row at this point. And so I've got 12 chains made on my sample. And I've got my working loop on my hook. And I'm going to begin my first stitch in the second.
Hold it right, it keeps slipping.
Is it,
Your pattern.
you said you need a,
Is
something
there
like
a
a,
question?
you need a rough sticker or something?
No, she didn't say that.
Mm.
Oh, maybe Mary, I'm hearing maybe your background noise.
Oh,
Can you
yeah,
mute,
well, I just
please?
wanted to say, can you show me how to hold that again? I keep slipping out of my hand. I must be doing something wrong.
Let me see if I can do it real big. Let me just stop sharing for a minute. And let me show you. I'm going to show you real big in my. All right, so I've got my crochet hook here with this facing me like this, and I've got my slip knot on. And so, and this is my, here's my, my working yarn is over here. That's what's going to the skein, is this one that's going off to an angle. So what I do is I go in and I go like this. Can you see me doing it? I go like this and I grab right here, and then I wrap around the thread with those bottom two fingers. So let me show you one more time. I go in like this. I turn it, you know, I turn my hand vertical, grab the bottom of the hook with my thumb and my middle finger, grab what's trailing to the skein with these bottom two fingers, and then I'm ready to go. And so then what that allows me to do is it allows me to go this way underneath, grab, rotate it so that the tip of the needle hook is the same as where the knot is at the bottom. It won't come through there good if I don't do that. So that's the hold. Okay. Let me go back to sharing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm gonna keep going here.
Start, rule of thumb, or just a basic single crochet pattern would be to start in the second chain from the hook. We don't start in the first one because you can see that our yarn goes through that first one. We would actually undo what we've already done if we went in that first one, which is why we go in the second one. So I'll tighten this back down, tighten my hold back down, and I line my whole thread exactly the same. Turn my chain, so now
We can barely hear that.
I wish I could turn it up. I can't.
Okay.
So I'm skipping the first chain and going into the second.
And so to get my fingers out of the way, I'm actually going to use the knife hold for a minute because I think you can see it better in the knife hold. I'm going to take the tip of the crochet hook. I'm going to go through the top loop of the chain. I'm going to go right through there with my tip, and that's why I made that tip, is for that poking. I'm going to go from underneath. I'm going to, with the throat pointed toward me, I'm going to grab the thread and turn it as we come back through. And I'm going to pull it up straight, putting two loops on my hook. So once I've got the two loops, I'm going to move my needle back to that, the throat facing me, and go under the thread, turning the hook to that down position and pulling the loop through both loops here, and that completes my first single crochet stitch. To do the second one, I go in the loop right next door. So you go down through the top, right in that center part under the top loop, through, grab the thread, turning the needle, pull it back through, putting 2 loops on the hook. And it's always good to try to kind of have those in equal tension between those 2 loops. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab my thread from underneath, turn, and pull through both. There's my second one. Move my fingers over. I'm going to put my pointer up my tip of my hook through under that top loop through the center of the chain stitch. I'm going to grab the thread, pull it back through, and now I've got the 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to wrap and pull through 2. So down through, grab it, up, 2 on the hook, wrap and pull through, grab it, 2 on the hook, wrap it and pull. I'm going to switch to my pencil position so that you can see how I hold it in the pencil position.
So you just switch from knife
My
to
working
pencil.
loop. I go through the center of the stitch, wrap and pull, putting 2 loops on the hook, wrap and pull through 2.
One thing that I didn't tell you in the video, if you watch my right hand, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was crocheting my doilies. I actually control the fabric quite a bit with my middle finger and my ring finger in my right hand. Watch. Whoops, sorry.
Loops on the hook, chain stitch. I'm going to grab the thread through 2. So down, up, 2 on the hook, wrap, put it in the pencil position.
Okay, there.
So I've got my,
See what I'm doing with my right hand?
I go through the center of the stitch, wrap and pull, putting 2 loops on the hook, wrap and pull through 2. Through, pull, wrap, pull, through, pull, wrap, pull, through, pull, wrap, pull, through, pull, wrap, pull, through, pull, wrap, pull. And I've completed my first row of single crochet stitches.
Okay, any questions
Okay, let's look at counting.
on that single crochet row? Oh, Carol, you got one? Carol Williams, got a question?
No, I'm just trying to figure out, because I still get lost when I'm, when I'm doing that row. My, my yarn becomes loose and I get off track. So I guess with practice and practice, I'll become, it'll become more familiar.
If it's loose and that's distracting you, instead of just wrapping it around that one finger, weave it in and out and see if that helps you at all. So I've done all the way up to, weaving it through all of my fingers, and that tightens it and it gives me a little bit more control. Just remember, when you're doing that chain though, do the chain loose. Whatever you do the chain loose. It's very frustrating to do a real tight chain and then go back and try to get your needle through it. So make sure that chain's loose. All right, so this is going to show you turn. So I've gotten to the end. This is my first row. Now we're going to turn it and do the second row. So this was my swatch. So you remember I started with 12 chains in my swatch as compared to the 35 chains in the dishcloth. I have 12 in there, but I skipped the first chain. So really I've only got 11 single crochets.
And turning. So this is my first row of single crochet, and there's 2 ways to count.
I'm going to skip counting it a little bit.
Especially when you first get started, and that's to look at the top, which really looks identical to your chain foundation stitches. See the V's right there? So you can count it the same way. Starting here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 when we count it here. There's 11 when we count it here. Now, to turn and go back the other direction, I'll put my working hands back together. Same hold as before. I'm going to use that pencil hold on the needle, and I'm going to chain 1 before I turn. So I'm going to chain 1. That's rule of thumb with single crochet. So I grab, I wrap and pull through 1, and then I simply take my work and turn it back in the opposite direction. So where we tend to read right to left, we crochet left to right. And so now I'm at the left hand end of the row.
I said that backwards.
And where I'm going to put the needle is, I'm going to use that tip again, the tip of the hook, tip of the needle, and I'm going to put it right here. Now, if you're wondering where that is, if you look at the top, what I've done is I've put it directly under the V-stitch with nothing else in the way. And that's where I'm putting the hook. So once I get it through there, I wrap and pull, putting 2 back up onto the hook again, and then I wrap and pull through 2. So let me show you again. So I go in from the front right here, which is under the V-stitch right there. Wrap and pull, 2 on my needle, wrap and pull. So through, wrap and pull, wrap and pull through 2. Through, wrap and pull through 2. Through, wrap and pull through 2. And I'll do that for all of the stitches across this row. Coming to the end here pretty quick. This is a little bit tricky because if you're not careful with your count, you can end up actually making your work get wider and wider and wider. So in this case, I never want to, in this pattern where I'm trying to make a square or a rectangle, I don't ever want to do more than 11 stitches. So this is where I'm going to double check. So I'm at the end of my second row and I want to count. Do I still have 11 stitches? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. If I had 9, that means I probably messed something up back here. If I have 11, it means I've probably put an extra one in here. But keeping track of that count is very important.
Okay, what questions do you have so far? Carol Williams, were you able to figure out turning around and going back the other direction?
Yes, I did figure that out, but
Okay.
I'm still having a little bit trouble. Say like, okay, it's when she turned her work and then she went in, okay, was it 2? She went in 2 and she had 2 on the hook. Then she went back in again. She came out with 1, correct?
No,
No?
no. So let me see if I can, I'm going to unshare. The problem, I only have the smaller hook here that on my work that I've already done. So I'm at the beginning of the row and I've got 1 loop, right? And I'm going to chain 1. So I've still just got 1 loop on. Can you see that? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm going to go in that hole right there. And that's where I think you might have gotten confused because I was showing you that I'm under the whole V, but I'm just really going through 1 stitch. And then I'm grabbing and I'm pulling up. Now I've got 2 on there and I'm going to wrap and pull through those 2. So I'm going down in the hole, wrap and pull, bringing up 2, and then wrapping and pulling through 2. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Carol?
does. Yes, it does.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
Yes, the only time I was talking about 2 was just showing you that if you wonder if you're in the right spot, if you look at it from above, you can see that you're under both parts of the V, which is the single crochet from the row below.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. When you get done, are there other questions before I keep going? Okay, when you get done, you need to weave in your ends.
When you get done with your work, you need to weave your ends in. And you need to do that to keep it from unraveling. If I were to cut this off right here and make it nice and neat, this yarn would actually pull out through that loop and my work would unravel. So to weave it in, there's two ways that you can do it. One is with a crochet hook and one is with a yarn needle, which looks like a sewing needle with an eye in it. That's a little bit bigger, but basically what you do, and there's no particular rhyme or reason to this, you're just catching that thread and pulling it through the stitches and winding it through. I tend to go down here and try to go through the back of my work, the back side of my piece, whatever the back side is, and just pull that through. And I do that until I've gone through at least 5 stitches and kind of hidden that yarn inside.
So that's, I go under at least 5, maybe a little bit more, stretch it out a little bit, and then just trim it off. And that keeps that from unraveling. Ripping a mistake, instead of showing the video, I'm just going to show you on here. What I love about crochet that's a lot easier than with knitting is, let's say that I made a mistake back here. Taking that out in knitting can, if you don't know what you're doing, can ruin the whole piece. But crocheting is very forgiving because you're only ripping 1 stitch at a time and stitches don't drop. So literally you can go back as far as you need to 1 stitch at a time. And that's what I like about, that's one of the things that I like about crocheting. I'm gonna skip this one. Okay, so this is kind of like how I think of it in my brain, so that I've got kind of a pattern in my brain. Insert the hook front to back where the stitch is gonna go, yarn over, pull up a loop, creating 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull the working yarn through both loops on the hook. That's my kind of simple way of remembering it. Now, if you're looking at a pattern and you're wondering, it looks like a code, and that's why I've decided to turn this into a whole class, but I'll just give you a little tiny mini lesson on it. CH is the abbreviation for chain. That was our foundation, or CHS sometimes. I don't generally see CHS very often, but that would mean chains. SC is the abbreviation for single crochet. HDC is for half double crochet. That'll be an intermediate stitch that we'll do. DC is double crochet, intermediate. TC is called triple crochet or treble crochet. You'll see it called both things. Again, intermediate. MC would be an abbreviation for a main color, and CC would be an abbreviation for contrasting color. So what that looks like, this is an example. This is a second row in a pattern where the pattern is chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, single crochet in the next stitch. It gives you a little bit lacier pattern than the one we're doing today, but this is how this reads. So what this says is chain 1. And this person was nice enough to tell you that you're chaining because that's your turning chain, to turn it around to go the other direction. They don't always say that. So chain 1, single crochet in the first single crochet. This one just drives me up the wall because this one's telling you what to do and this one's telling you where to do it, but it's the same abbreviation. What it's telling you to do is you're in your second row, so you're going to create a single crochet stitch in the first single crochet stitch from the row below. So what you're going to do and where you're going to do it. And then in brackets, this one says chain 1, skip the next single crochet stitch, single crochet in the next single crochet stitch 16 times. So what that's saying to us is if it's in brackets, you're going to repeat that over and over and over again until you get to the end of the row. And then when you get all done, you're going to turn. So that's just a real brief example of a crochet pattern. Once you get it, you'll be able to do tons and tons of crocheting with a pattern. These are some examples of some things I've crocheted. This is a baby blanket. This is my favorite baby blanket pattern. I've made this for all of my grandchildren in a variety of colors at this point. This is a crocheted Afghan that I made that fits my bed. And this is a variation of the granny square. It's each piece of this was a diamond shape crochet to the diamond next to it. This is the rug I was telling you about. I did it with strips of fabric and this crochet hook. We were remodeling a home and I wasn't ready to spend a lot of money on a carpet. And so I used strips of fabric and made that. This is a hexagon. Yeah, hexagon, yes, hexagon pattern. These were all like hexagon shaped granny squares. This is a stitch called the Tunisian crochet stitch, which looks like a crochet hook on one end of the needle and a knitting needle on the other end. It's a variation of the crochet that we've learned today. These are some American Girl outfits that I sewed for my granddaughter, and using crochet, I made these cute little necklaces. I've also done these and made them into hair ties for the kids, and my children, and then now my grandchildren. This is thread crochet. I was talking about that a little bit earlier. It uses a very teeny tiny crochet hook. And what I do is I sew these flannel blankets that are 2 layers of flannel thick, and then I crochet an edge around the blankets. This is my grandson. And give those as gifts. And that's been a very wonderful gift to give. This is an elephant. Actually, my daughter-in-law said, I want one of those blankets. So I made a full-size double layer blanket for her. She loves elephants. And I found this elephant border pattern online. It was actually in Spanish and I had to have a friend interpret it for me, but I did it. I got it done. This is a close-up of one that I'm making. I have a grandchild due in June. And so this is one that I was making for her. They're doing her nursery and Star Wars thing, go figure. And so that was the edging on that one. So there's lots and lots and lots of applications of crocheting and gift giving that are so very fun. And then I'm gonna send you this as a resource today, which is the copy of the crochet pattern for the dishcloth. All right, with that, I've finished. Are there any questions before I just do my wrap-up slides?
Are you going to send us a recording of this class?
You have to request it. So you email help@getsetup.io. You say, I'd like a copy of Sarah's class on Learn to Crochet, and they'll send it to you within, I think I always get mine within an hour when I request them.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I don't have the ability to send it directly.
I see. That's fine. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Other questions? All right. I'm just going to wrap up real quick. I want to thank you for coming. Here's some other classes that I'll be teaching in the next couple of weeks, and there's some related classes in there. After we're done, if you want to give me some feedback, when you get my class notes after the class is over, if you scroll down, you can click on the orange button and give me some feedback. I always read every word of it. I like to know if you like the content, if there's anything I can do different to increase your enjoyment of the process, and you can make all kinds of suggestions down here in this box. So please do that. Share with a friend. Invite a friend to come in the future. We'd love to have a friend come along. And here's that email address, Mary, that I just mentioned, the help@getsetup.io. You can also host an interest group yourself. You can suggest new classes. You can share your organization. We'll reach out to them if you'd like. And this is where you request that session recording. All right, I'm gonna look at the chat box and see if there's any other questions. I'm gonna stop the share and I'll stay on for a minute if anybody has any last questions, but I'm all set if you are. It's been a joy to be with you today.
Nice to be with you. Thanks, Sarah.
You're welcome. You're
Thank
so
you.
good luck in your journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out. Bye, everyone.